Hi, this is Mariah Gullo from The Hollywood Reporter, and we're in studio today with Ari Handel and Darren Aronofsky. Thank you very much for being here, gentlemen.
Thank you for having us.
You guys are the executive producers of One Strange Rock on Nat Geo. So the first question I wanted to ask you is, who was the first astronaut you ever encountered in your life? Who was the first one you saw?
Actually, the first one was probably
Apollo for me.
Buzz.
Oh, why did you meet Buzz?
Yeah, at some event somewhere he used to.
Oh,
that's pretty cool.
But the first one I met in that was Jeff Hoffman. I met for this, but really, we got to meet 8 here. So
Right.
it was like a full-on blast of astronaut power.
I met Paulo, who shot original footage for us on the space station. I didn't actually meet him, but I got to talk to him on the phone and then do some email conversations with him. But it was exciting because we got to shoot original footage for the show on the space station.
Amazing.
In the kind of visual language that the rest of the show was shot in. I'd say the coolest, well, I mean, they're all amazing, but, hanging out with Peggy, who is been in space for 665 days, and I like to call her the real-life Ripley, as in from the Alien movies, because she's the person you want to defend us from aliens invading. Getting to hang out with her has been great.
Wonderful. What is it that all of these 8 astronauts have in common, or are there any common misconceptions that this show kind of clears up about astronauts?
I think one thing that I was surprised is how they're not jet pilots. And they're not the right stuff version, but they really are a whole varied group of people with varied backgrounds. Biologists, doctors, engineers, and yes, jet pilots.
NFL players, right?
So, and then despite that breadth of experience and background, then there's this commonality that they all share from this experience of going into space and what it does to them, the way their different relationship to the planet, their different relationship to life support, different relationship to time on the planet, the sunrises and the sunsets, that they see 16 of those and we see 1. All those things are different, and it lets them see the whole intricacies of the Earth in a special way, in a new way, and changes them.
It doesn't matter if they've been in space for 8 days like May or 665 days like Peggy. They all kind of have this transformation.
Yes.
And we talk about in the show, it's called cosmic consciousness, or the overview effect. And it's basically seeing the Earth as one system, something we all kind of understand and get, but it's very easy to forget in our daily lives of carpooling and taking kids all over and doing whatever other stuff we need to do around the home. Remembering that this is one house, that we all share Mother Nature, is something they get to witness firsthand. And I think the show One Strange Rock tries to capture that feeling and remind us all of what's going on.
Mm-hmm. And one of the ways it captures the feeling is with the amazing footage. Can you tell me a little bit about that, where all of the different footage came from?
We shot for 100 weeks, 145 countries, 6 continents, the hottest place on the planet, the coldest place on the planet, up on the space station. So we had 6 different crews going on at once at all time. So a tremendous smorgasbord of incredible places on the planet. And that was kind of the initial pitch, where all of these cool things that are going on that you've never seen before. So it's very much like looking through an episode or an issue of National Geographic, the magazine, how you can see snapshots of different places in the world and different scales. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's animals, sometimes it's chemistry and microbiology. And we tried to give that spirit to this show, but to somehow unify it and connect it all to remind us all that it's one big system.
And what did you learn through the process of the show that kind of shocked you or amazed you?
Every episode there's something that's just mind-blowing. Just that there's been this exact amount of oxygen on the planet, 20.85% or some small fraction, but that it's maintained this for some reason that we actually don't know the reason. To all that was living on Earth for 3.5 billion years was bacteria. to the first episode has this whole thing about diatoms, which are these little creatures that basically are responsible for most of the oxygen that we breathe. What were some of the things
Well, there's endless. I mean, to me, one of the big things is how connected or how responsible living creatures are for everything that we take for granted as being the planet, the color of the sky, the dirt, the ground, everything, the way that rivers flow. That all comes from life, and contrapuntally, that everything in us, that living creatures are affected by this planet in ways that we don't understand. So seeing how interconnected everything is, it was pretty eye-opening. And as Darren said, every episode has something. And I know a lot of scientists who watch the show and say that they learn things. And I also know a lot of kids who watch the show and are able to take it in at the same time. So it's nice to be able to reach that across those divides.
At one point, they took jellyfish into space, and the jellyfish that were born into space when they came back to Earth were no longer like the jellyfish in the sea, because they didn't know which way was up or down. Oh, wow. So it poses the question: what is it going to mean for humans when we're born in space? Will we still be Earthlings?
Right, and there's so many interesting speculations about that on the show, about what it's going to be like for the first generation of people who were born off the Earth.
Yeah, that's right. It's trying to underline a little bit, or ask the questions of how separable are we from the Earth, and how reliant is the Earth on our behaviors for its ability to keep going in the way that we're used to.
Are there any theories about space that you still can't wrap your head around or can't understand?
Probably
most of them.
Exactly.
Like 98% of everything is dark matter that we don't know what it is.
Right.
That's a good one.
We also did we did a VR project this year called Spheres, where we tried to take the audience to far off places in the universe, being in the center of two black holes colliding, way over my head, but really cool experience.
Yeah.
And looked pretty.
One of the things that all the astronauts said on the show is that if given the opportunity, they would go back to space. Would you want to go to space?
Absolutely. Wouldn't you?
I was going to ask, have you been to space?
So it depends on define space.
Yeah, exactly.
Have you been close? Yes, I would too. Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
I think most people would. I think there's something really magical about that notion. I think people do want to break their mindset and see things from a different perspective. And hopefully the show lets people do that in a certain way, even without leaving.
Yeah. How did Will Smith become involved in the project?
We knew that there was a lot of science, and we wanted to figure out a communicator who could really sort of connect with some of the intense stuff and make it really exciting. And Will just seemed perfect for it, because he was able to take all of this information and really communicate it to pretty much everyone in an exciting way. And then beyond that, we were blessed, because we only had a small amount of time because of schedules to work with him. But he's just a complete gentleman and totally game, and definitely just an incredible actor to work with.
Last question to you.
Yes.
If people are moved by this program, and they're moved into the idea of conservation or protecting the environment because of watching this show, where do they start? Where's a good place to start?
You mean in their behaviors and in their life?
In behaviors in their lives, how
the first thing
to
do is to vote for people who believe in science. That's the most important thing you can do, and to tell everyone you do. Science has become political, and but it's not political. Science is a way of observing the world and then turning those observations into conclusions of how things work, and then you can invent things like cell phones and healthcare and all of these other things that have just changed our lives for the better since the scientific method was discovered and has been being used. So, yet there are people for many different reasons not sort of cherry picking science. And we saw, Galileo, they stuck in prison for a long time for looking up at the stars. Mm-hmm. And now people are sort of, voting and making choices, not based on science. So I think that's the first thing, is just to make sure whoever you're voting, whoever represents you, believes in science.
NASA doesn't just send spaceships out to Mars and to Venus and take pictures. One of the big things that they've always done is they put satellites around this planet and they study the planet that's closest to us, which is this one, to understand how it works. And that part of NASA, the one that monitors and looks at this planet, the one that gives us all the information that's in this show, that part has been cut. Because people...
They don't want that information.
They don't want to know, because it's going to say things that aren't going to let them buy and sell some of the things they want to buy and sell. So allowing science to inform us and to be the vehicle for appreciating beauty and understanding, that's a key component. And then just to try and live with respect and awareness of the complexity and the beauty around you. It's also be a good thing to do.
Yeah, that's the small contribution, but governments are what's going to save us. And being part of the Paris Agreement was a huge step forward, and now that we're the only country on the planet that is not part of the agreement, is just tells you something that's going on. Why does every other country agree with it except for us?
Yeah. Well, thank you for an informative and really visually stunning and kind of mind-changing, a game changer of a show.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Pleasure.
Thank you.